Welcome to the Tech Exits podcast. In today's Seller's Corner, we connect with CEOs and founders who built and successfully sold their companies, picking their brains about the good, the bad, and the ugly from their experience. In this episode, we're speaking with James Fair, co-founder of Vetasi, a global consultancy specializing in enterprise asset management solutions. James recently completed the sale of Vetasi after years of steady growth and market leadership. Unlike some founders who rush into a deal under pressure, James approached the M&A process with a long-term vision, but quickly learned that preparation alone doesn't make the process easy. Today, we'll hear how James navigated the emotional roller coaster of selling a business, the challenges of keeping operations steady while managing due diligence, and the lessons he wishes he'd known from the start. We'll also talk about what made Vetasi appealing to buyers, how he communicated with his team throughout the process, and what life looks like now, after stepping away from the company he built. This is a candid look at what it really takes to get through a deal, and why founders shouldn't go it alone. Let's begin. To kick things off, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what your company does?
Yeah, my name is James Fair. I'm one of the founders of a company called Vetasi, who've been recently acquired by Cohesive, part of the Bentley Group. But we founded this business 2006. It's all about asset management, providing basically solutions to help any company that's got physical assets to keep them operating efficiently and effectively.
What led you to pursue an M&A deal? Was there a specific motivation or turning point?
We always actually felt, even from the day we founded the business, that actually we could really get the business going quickly. We've got a very, very entrepreneurial style about the entire organization. It's sort of inbuilt into our genes. But we did feel that the growth beyond that, I would say it's not just an initial phase, because after all, 2006 to 2022 is a lot of elapsed time. But it had much more value to a wider group following an acquisition, we felt.
What do you think caught the buyer's attention? Did they mention anything in particular that stood out?
Well, I think to start with, it's a hot market, our space. At one point, asset management, it's all rather the sort of the oily hands side of software. But actually, at the end of the day, keeping infrastructure working is actually really, really an important part of business today. And it's got very broad appeal across multiple sectors. Okay, so we operate in oil and gas, we operate in mining, we operate in transportation, operate in utilities. We used to use the motto, we keep the lights on, we keep the trains moving, okay? But that is actually really at the heart of these things. So it's relevant. It's relevant today. So that's, I think, the initial thing. There's a real market opportunity there on a global, international scale. So that's the first thing. What is the other element? So we've all got USPs, but we felt we had a really full offering here in terms of being able to provide advisory right to start with, even before customers or prospects have started thinking about asset management solutions. We actually give them advice in terms of what their long-term strategy should be, solution only being a part of that. So what a lot of traditional organizations in this space do is they will literally just provide the solution. So they're waiting for people to come to market, and then they're competing. What we try and do is actually formulate part of this strategy at the outset, so we're there helping them guide. So that's the second part of the appeal. Then I'd say incredibly important with all of any M&A activity is getting that financial model correct. So we had a very, very strong recurring revenue base. It's very easy to get involved in projects, but projects have a start and they have an end. We've got recurring revenue stream. That was very, very attractive to all of our suitors. So I think those three fundamental elements were core. There's many other secondary things, but those three were absolutely core.
How did you handle communication during the process? Who did you loop in and when?
That's an interesting one because, yes, we needed to take all of our investors, key directors and investors, they're the same community. As part of this entrepreneurial spirit I talked about, everyone, who's actually playing a management role is also a key investor in the business. So we needed to take them on the journey. But by the same token, we couldn't have a sort of sell by committee, as it were. So the three of us, that's Jarek, the chief executive, Trevor, the chief operating officer, and myself playing the CFO role, we really were sort of driving all of that side, but keeping the rest of that wider group, which was about another 9 people, informed on a regular basis. Not so that they were involved in every little decision, but at least, we're being kept informed and motivated.
What was it like trying to run the business while also managing the M&A process? How did you juggle both?
With difficulty. Yes, in hindsight, it's very easy to say in hindsight we might have done it differently, because at the end of the day, we were doing both an acquisition on the one side of a significant business in Jakarta, different culture, different time zone, at the same time as we were exiting. So buy and sell side was particularly difficult. We were really juggling a lot of balls at that point. But as you rightly say, how do you keep the business going? And I would say we didn't actually do it particularly well. Really, I don't. I think we got consumed as you had to. And there was a stage at which point we actually said to the buyer, well, if this is what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to drop all of these other basic things. So it was quite a risky approach, but one which we felt we're committed. Let's see that through. So it's not what I would ideally recommend to others to do.
What were some of the biggest surprises along the way? And looking back, any mistakes you'd own up to?
Yeah, I think we always make mistakes. I think we're grown up, ugly enough and so on to admit the fact that we made mistakes. But nothing of particular significance. I always think one of the lessons learned is to make sure you're going in prepared, but at the same time, timing is everything, absolutely everything. And, I remember only too well, Jabir saying the timing is now, and me saying, but we're not ready. And it's very easy to say, look, let's wait a little bit longer, and the opportunity really would have been gone. So there was a compromise we had to reach on that. And, we got caught out a little bit partway through the due diligence process by some of that lack of preparedness. But actually it wasn't as painful as it might otherwise have been. So ideally, it would be fantastic to get all of your data rooms sorted out even before you kick off the process, so that you can say, I've got 80% of it already done. And we didn't.
Now that you've been through it, what advice would you give to other founders thinking about selling?
Yeah, well, I think there's a mystique. If you've never done this before, there's a mystique. And, there's even special sort of acronyms and a completely different vocabulary used in the M&A world. And it's as though it's sort of, it's a world which only people, have a certain right to access. I think in hindsight, I think a lot of people similar to me would say, I wish I'd done one of these 20 years ago. Because actually there isn't any particular mystique about it. You just got to overcome, say the nomenclature and so on. I think it was actually hugely rewarding, not just for the outcome, by the way, but for the experience we went through. It was astonishing how once you start the due diligence process, and what seems like a phenomenally tall order, because in this instance we were told to expect 8 weeks, and we were asked for 3 weeks due diligence, which everyone said it's never been done before. And after a little bit of sort of goldfish sort of imitation with open mouth wide, we said, okay, we'll go for it. And this is where I said to you earlier that we had to compromise on certain things. There were certain things that with 3-week deadline like this, you just had to compromise and say, well, this and this is just going to get forgotten about. But what it did is it bound everyone together. I mean, there was a huge task to be accomplished in an incredibly short space of time, and the camaraderie during this time, working through till 2, 3 in the morning, through weekends, bank holiday. It was fantastic, actually.
How has life changed since the deal closed?
Well, I think we're still really sort of galvanized, I'd say, by the shared vision. We each did our sort of little beauty parade. This is a bit about Vetasi, this is a bit about cohesive, and we thought we really, really buy into that. So very easy for shareholders, founders like myself, just to sort of disappear off into the sunset and say, thank you very much. No, that's not the case. We're really sort of committed to delivering this. We want to see that next chapter come along. There's always a difference in cultures, and yes, you're part of a much bigger, in this case, publicly quoted company, and there's structures, there's processes to adhere to. But we also feel there's a great opportunity for us to actually help form the culture within this organization we're now a part of, a much bigger. And it's exciting, actually. It's just a new chapter.
Is there anything we didn't cover that you think is important for people to know about the process?
No, I don't think so. I think we just sort of, talked about being prepared on the one hand, but don't miss the opportunity on the other. And I think that's the one thing I will always come back to, actually, 10 years hence, I would still sort of say, you've got to be prepared to make a compromise, because otherwise the opportunity will be gone. And there are so many people who you talk to in normal day-to-day business who aspire to do that, and they never achieve it. Because possibly you're trying to look for too idealistic a set of circumstances. So that is where I would say, compromise, because actually, that's life.
James, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
No, absolute delight to be here and be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Are you considering selling your tech company? Head over to quorumgroup.com, our tech exit sponsor. If you'd like to learn more about selling your tech company, join us in one of our Tech M&A Masterclass events. Attendees of the Tech M&A Masterclass will gain practical knowledge on how to achieve the maximum valuation for their company gained through expert-guided workshops, hands-on exercises, and M&A case studies. Upcoming events in Las Vegas and Bengaluru, or online through our virtual conference and webcasts. Head over to wfs.com for more details. We'll see you again for the next episode.